All right, technically, it's 6 o'clock. Right on schedule. So we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance, now that Howard's sitting.
No, I'm gonna get up.
I know, but I said now that you're sitting.
Oh, no, I'm sitting.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now you can sit back down now, Howard. I did have extra agendas. Thank you. Not that we really need them for much. We'll start with the approval of the minutes from March 5th, which was actually March 12th.
So moved.
Second by Howard, and all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, and we go straight to you, Howard, with your update from.
All right, it
Thank
won't
you.
be too much. You already, I'm assuming everybody's got it.
Yeah, we all read it.
Yeah. Let me see here. Nabittsville Town Board, an ongoing issue of whether something is in compliance or not. And it's being handled by the building inspector and the lawyer. And the Schmidt Conway Valley Farm Road that want to increase the house. Interestingly, Richard Phelps called attention to our letter and said, did you notice the CAC letter talked about, you have to be able to justify why you can't put it out of the buffer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, but I think there's no problem putting it in the buffer. So that took care of that.
All right.
And the other members went along with it. But that's a very quick comment. I was at the meetings where they did those codes. I was talking about the wetlands law.
Right.
And that was put in there purposely because they didn't want people building in the wetlands. It was only when there was no alternative, and then you would look at it and see if it was feasible to do or not.
Right.
It still could not be done under certain circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't meant as an automatic, well, you just put it in the wet, you don't have to do that. It's supposed to justify.
Right.
And this planning board doesn't do that. It's not what that language was there for. It's very annoying because none of those people were there when that wetlands law was being done. And there's a lot of discussion about that. I don't know what to do about it because they simply ignore it all the time. It reminds me, I'll get off this topic quickly. The man with the rock. Remember the man with the rock on Burbank?
Yep.
Our friend Richard Phelps was acting as the chairman because they were rotating chairman around at that point. And not only did he let him move into the wetlands buffer, he let him do a huge amount, larger building than was allowed by code, way over 25%. So that's a problem. It's still ongoing from time to time.
So are we, so they, so you're talking about last night's planning board meeting?
Yes.
So they received our letter.
No, I'm talking about the zoning board of appeals first, but then I'm talking about,
Oh.
I'm talking about the Phelps of the planning board. I'm talking about the planning board. I jumped around.
So you are talking about that. So they got our letter. What did they say? Did they mention the new wetlands law regulations?
Yes, it came up in the end there. I think I have a note someplace saying they weren't sure if that applied or not.
That was the planning board, not the zoning board? Okay.
So
Zoning board is not aware of that at all, as far as I know.
So what did they do with Schmidt Conway? Anything?
Give them a variance.
No,
Not last night.
So last night, what
Okay.
happened?
They're the planning board.
So I'm still taking notes for zoning board.
Oh, so
I know,
we're talking
jumped.
about, way on the bottom, the Schmidt Conway thing. So,
Yes.
they weren't sure if the wetlands permit, New York State wetlands regulations applied or not. They didn't know. It said it might. I'm pretty sure from a little I can gather, I find it difficult, but a little I can gather out of that, it does apply.
Yeah, it does apply.
Yeah, how could it
Right,
not?
that was what you pointed out in the
Right.
email to them as well.
So maybe I should, so we should finalize the letter.
Yeah.
So they didn't issue any kinds of approval last
No,
night.
it's going on for one more meeting still.
So it sounds like we should finalize the letter, but perhaps update it to make it clear that we do think it applies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the email from Aaron suggested that somehow we coordinate with Steve Marino,
Yeah.
but I don't think this involves coordinating with
No.
Steve Marino. I'm happy to call him
Yeah.
and ask him if he wants to discuss it, but
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it has anything to do with coordinating with him.
yeah,
He's a consultant and we are
We are
advisory.
advisory,
Yeah,
yes.
so he, you know,
Okay.
Most of the time, and this is a performer, he says, well, we could do a little something with planting and so on, and we'll mitigate any damage that could occur. And that's what he said this time, if you read, his
So,
report again.
so do we think that we need to educate the planning board on the need? Because if they are saying, well, we can just build in the wetlands, that's not right. They do need to follow the rules.
Well, they're saying that in the case with Steve Marino,
Mhm.
he's what he always says, if you read all of his reports, he
yeah, they're
says
all
the same thing.
basically some-
I'm gonna put some plants here, I'm gonna put some plants there, and these plants will improve the wetlands, so they'll counterbalance any damage that could be caused by building in them. That's 90% of his recommendations all the time.
So it sounds like, but it's Richard Phillips who doesn't understand how the wetlands operates?
I don't know
Wetlands
what, he's the same person that worked on the, what do you call these,
So maybe we need to meet with the planning board to explain to them what the wetlands regulations have to say?
We could.
So it sounds like.
I think the language is pretty clear, I don't understand.
Well, no, but apparently the language isn't that clear.
It says you have to give a reason why you can't build it, and then if you can't give that reason,
Mhm.
then you can't approve it.
Right.
So I think it'd be a good idea for people to all come to, and we could all meet with them and discuss it.
So I was gonna say we could do it next month. We could ask them for a time slot at their
At
meeting.
their meeting.
Yeah, however you'd like.
I'm not gonna be here next month, but I apologize. Would that work? Would anybody
Yeah.
have a problem with doing that?
I mean, I think that, we'll listen to the recording of the meeting, but and after that, it sounds like they don't understand how that section works.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So I will reach out to Susan and see if she'll let us be at the end of their meeting and have a wetlands discussion.
or at the
beginning.
beginning, because if they're going to discuss it
Yeah.
later. Um,
I don't know the protocol for this, like if this is something we're allowed to do even,
well,
but we can
We could
just do it.
request this, first of all, they can
Yeah, they can deny it.
deny,
Yeah.
if it's a public meeting still, which,
it is
It
a
is,
it is a public
that's-
meeting. We can still go and make a
still going
comment.
there.
You can still make a comment, but it's gonna be in the time frame that they want you to make the
Now,
comments.
the other part, while we're on that public meeting, we technically are part of the government. The only reason that we had this minor thing, we generally don't comment after the public hearing, it goes way back to two members of the planning board 20 some odd years ago who hated the CAC. And we had a private meeting with, David was there and who else was there? Somebody else and me. And those two members and Josh Mackey.
Mhm.
And we said that we could, to contemplate how to deal with these two people, we said that we could turn in letters, but we shouldn't speak until, once the public hearing goes. But we are government officials. We're on the list of government. So
Right.
we technically should be allowed to speak. That's just a personal agreement that was made at that time. There was nothing in writing that said we, the CAC, could not speak at those meetings, that I know of at least.
Mhm.
It's just an accommodation to shut those people up who are very hostile to the CAC. Extremely hostile, more so than you've ever seen. And so maybe we should raise that tactfully again, that we should be allowed to comment during these workshops and so on, or whatever, because we are government. We're listed under government. You go to the website under government, there we are.
Mhm.
I don't know how you want to handle that, but I personally feel that this is just an old accommodation, that a precedent, so to speak, but it's not a regulation that we can't speak. There's one fellow on that round table that you folks all went to who sits right at the table with them all the time.
Mhm.
You know, there's no regulation that stops CAC people from participating. So that came up, and I had to wait till after the meeting to ask them about there was still a meeting, because according to the code, if they're sitting at that table talking business, it's still an open meeting, even though the public hearing part could be closed. It's still considered recordable and everything else.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know if they were aware of the fact that on the clock clear thing, rather, whether or not they were going to allow them to build septic tanks and other things outside the buffer. And they said they didn't think so, but they weren't positive. I thought I saw it the other way around, actually, somewhere, that the main building has to stay in the buffer, but they could go outside the buffer for other things. Do you folks remember any of that? Does it sound
No, are you
reasonable?
talking about the building envelope?
Building envelopes.
No.
Yeah, like driveways could be outside the building
Yeah.
envelopes. I remember that.
And that's really, that's in their, what would they call that? Their original proposal, not the actual approved plan. That's, if they satisfy all the code in that proposal they made, then it becomes approved. That's the way I remember it.
Mhm.
And their representative is pretty capable, so they'll probably do that. Ventool, I think her name is. The woman that presents all the time.
Yeah.
She's very capable, so I'm sure she'll touch all bases.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the planning board themselves understands that,
Right.
the buffer business.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to Susan and we'll get.
Yeah, also listen to the planning board meeting to
Yeah.
find out,
Yeah.
what their level of understanding is.
Yeah.
Well, that came up after, because I wanted to ask that question, and that's when they told me I can't speak because I am not a member of the.
Yeah, so I've noted those two items to discuss.
So I asked them after the meeting was closed, because it was still a meeting, because they were all at the table talking.
Yeah.
It's still technically a meeting,
Mhm.
and I recorded it somewhere. It's on the recording somewhere.
All righty.
All right, so moving on. I don't want to get out of here a little faster
Yeah,
than normal. I'm trying to speak. Okay, Subaru, we already talked about. Because it also came up in the town board. They will be coming, next meeting, they will actually be coming in for the special permit.
Right.
Very.
Can I ask one question on the Schmidt? And so nothing happened, nothing was passed at the planning board. It just was like a workshop
Which one?
for Schmidt
For
in
the,
Conway. The wetland
No,
permit
they're
was
still coming,
discussed,
and
but
the
not.
CAC will be
following up,
asked to, submit a letter to them regarding.
which is what we're going to update and finalize.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a wetland permit required.
Correct. And understand.
All right. Now, the RGAP was rather interesting, and I put it in there because it's basically an man-made environmental issue with that pool.
Yeah, and that's in
The-
the zoning.
ZBA stretched all of these variances to give them 80, 90% sometimes. They went through a whole litany of variances.
Yeah.
And there was one new member who, one of the points that came up disagreed with the others, because he said, I see this as a town and village. This is the town,
Mhm.
and that's a village-like thing that you're doing now, putting things so close. And which is really the spirit of the town. The town is not supposed to look like the village.
Right. Mhm.
And, this is very close to the other person's property, and that was it, but they passed that. Now they went through all the lists,
Yeah.
and that's done. after I think it's 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay, fine. All right, the clear Woodstock one, this is what we talked about before, the building envelope.
Mm-hmm.
Special farm is, did you go to the special, that one, take the walk with him?
So that I'm recused from Butts Hollow.
But
Oh,
she
So
did-
if
Did
you're
anybody
gonna,
go with him?
if you're
No.
going to talk.
if you're gonna
Butts
talk
Hollow-
about Butts Hollow, she's gonna leave.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, just have a quick visit in the hall.
Yeah.
It'll be very quick.
Shut the door. Now you can talk.
He just basically mentioned Miss Marino again,
Uh-huh.
stream crossings can be handled, you can put a bridge across them or something. He was a little concerned about the view shed, but he said if it's in certain places, the trees will cover it in the summertime and the branches of the trees will partially obscure it in the wintertime. So whatever they want to do there, he was comfortable with and board was comfortable with it too. And that's on the second parcel. There was no discussion about the larger parcel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you come back in. That was that.
Guess I won't scream in that microphone. I'm back. I was gonna scream in the microphone, but I didn't think that would go that well.
We talked about the Schmidt Conway business, as to why they didn't bother justifying first why they can't put it outside the buffer.
Got that one done. I
So
just
that's
did it
done,
up with
then
the
we're
other
done.
one.
Yep,
And
so
there's
that's it.
Marino's report there.
Did we do Solo? Route 44 Solo?
Yeah, I mean, he did kind of, you said about
Special
the,
use permit, oh, okay.
they're
Okay,
coming
I'll
back,
just
they're coming
move
back
it.
with this, for the special use permit next time.
Emphasize with them, because this is open to the public, quote unquote, that you can't park on 44.
Yep, I saw that.
And the one
Which is
about
great.
no more, and Aaron actually said no more than 2 signs.
Yeah.
The AKRF said this, so that,
Yep.
and he'll be back and they will give him a special permit for whatever he wants, because it's allowed to do that in the code.
It's perfect. Thank
All right.
you.
That's it.
So the CAC roundup, how did that go?
It was very informative. Shannon did a lovely job presenting
Thank you, Shannon.
on our NRI.
Thank you.
We learned a lot. I like the format.
It sounded like it was a better format.
We heard about the new aquifer law for Dutchess County.
Cool.
We heard from the Village of Rhinebeck and their climate adaptation plan, which was very interesting. And we also got into the Dutchess County NRI and MAPper, which was very good, very appropriate for the work that we're doing on some of our wetlands applications.
Good.
They talked a little bit about the new wetlands regulations, and a consultant in the audience said that it was a game changer. That you really, in order to get a wetlands permit, you really do need to ask the state for basically any project.
Yeah.
And that's what the new rule is.
That's good.
So there were a lot of very interesting information that was distributed. I picked up a guide on conservation overlay zoning that was
cool.
really interesting. Conserving. So this has got a lot of good information on conservation overlay zoning. And it was very well attended. There were a lot of people there from all around the county, and the staff at Cornell and the county were very helpful. Shannon Howard, you were there too. Any other
I
impressions?
left early.
Thank you all for going.
My comment would be that I found this more interesting for the part I saw than the other parts they used to do year after year. But sometimes people would just get up and they would just read off a little list that had nothing to do with anybody else. And this I thought had more general interest for most people that applied. That's what I thought of. But I would say I like the new format.
It sounded like it was going to be a really nice format. So I'm jealous. But Shannon did say earlier that it was very nice.
It was informative
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean,
Just got on with it
everyone
all,
was engaged and,
Yeah.
and
which is nice.
yeah.
Alrighty. And so Pam, the site visit you went and did with Steve, right?
That's right.
For the Schmidt Conway.
Mhm.
And you gave us your comments on that, I believe.
And so we just
So that's part of what we're going to
finalized, right?
update and finalize. Shall we just leave it as a draft? Or shall we vote on it as a final?
Well, why wouldn't we vote on it as a final?
That's what I thought, because we want to give it to
Well,
the right.
anything you want to add after?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we
Looking into-
we would want to add is to just be more definitive.
Yeah, so let's say that about on our approval of the letter, because we do need to stipulate that as a part of our
Yeah.
final.
Yeah, that we approve the letter subject to revisions to make it even clearer that we think that they need to go to the state for a jurisdictional determination.
Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion second, all in favor? So moved. We will
I'll do that
revise
tomorrow.
that draft tomorrow and finalize it, get it to them.
Get it to them and
So this is for the wetland permit talk, that's what they said we were
Yes.
supposed to comment on.
Yes,
Yes.
that's to finish our comment on that. All right, so Yeah, go ahead.
and because Aaron suggested, I'll also reach out to Steve Marino to see if he has any thoughts.
yeah, that would be great. Thank you. It's that time of year again. No mo May or slow mo spring.
Well, there's also April is Native Plant Month in the state
Yes.
of New York.
I saw that.
So one thing we could do is see if the town would put something on its website saying
Yeah, we can put it
that we can put
on our
something
portion.
on our portion saying that April is Native Plant Month. And I have some flyers from the garden club that I can send along
That would be great.
that will help us publicize April. Is Native Plant Month in New York. It's also in other states as well. It's not just
Yeah.
New York.
The No Mo May is being spaced out
Yeah,
to slow mo.
to slow mo. So I try to call it slow mo spring, which I do put, I just have, this is the only thing I have, but it is slow mo spring.
Yep.
In our new terminology, because especially because the